Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I have a new layout to share for the Paige Evans design team, and this layout is going to feature one of her new cut files. This is called Butterfly Wreath, and it's part of her 20 Days of Spring cut files, and I'm going to link that down below if you would like to purchase this set that includes this one. And I went ahead and cut it twice on my Silhouette Cameo. I cut it once on a blue pattern paper from Paige's Wonders collection. It's paper number 15, and also cut it on some textured white cardstock. And I wanted to glue these together in a couple points so I could create a little bit of layering. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this wreath yet. I wanted to go ahead and cut it, and so it gave me a starting point. And I've got two loose butterflies that are also in the cut file, it's one butterfly, but I duplicated it and cut it twice. But so this is how I'm going to start it. And then I'm going to start to kind of move the wreath around and decide if I want it to be centered, if I want to run it off the page. I wasn't sure. So I kind of decided to run it off the page, and I'm going to use this little photo strip of 3 black and white cute little selfies of me and my youngest daughter. And so I'm going to start with a lot of blue here, but I'm going to use that other pattern paper of colorful butterflies to add lots of color later. So for the background, I'm going to use smooth, thick white cardstock. This is the Basil Marshmallow, and I'm going to coat it with clear gesso because I'm going to be doing lots of watercolor things on the background. So whenever I have a wreath, I tend to want to do some inking or some spraying kind of around the edge of the circle. So I just lightly used a pencil to mark where the wreath is going to go. And then I pulled out some of my Distress Oxides in different shades of blue. I think I have Chip Sapphire, Broken Glass, and another blue one. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm just scraping them right down on top of the paper, and then I'm going to activate it with water. That's what's in my little blue squirt bottle there. It's just water, and then use a brush. And it is pure magic watching the Distress Oxide come to life when you add water to it. That stuff is amazing. And this technique is perfect for when you use gesso. It just enables the color to kind of turn to liquid, and it basically acts as watercolor. And some of the areas are going to still look like an ink pad was on the paper, and I'm okay with that because I feel like it adds some texture and some interest. And what we're going to do here is make a big old blue watery mess. And yeah, I spent a lot of time on this background, so I try to keep as much footage in as possible so you can see exactly, you know, the process of how a white sheet of cardstock turns into this background. So what I'm trying to do is create a navy blue area because I want the light blue from the butterflies to stand out. So I don't want it to be the same color blue. So I'm going to keep working with this. Now I'm going to add in some of my shimmers, which you know I love. I'm going to add in a couple of blues. That is Deep Blue Sea. I love mixing my shimmer sprays with the Distress Oxides. I just get so many fun colors, and I like working with the ink pads and the sprays. It's just one of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm making a big watercolor area on the background like this. And this is not, I'm not aiming for perfection. This is supposed to look messy. It's supposed to look runny and uneven. And I'm mainly just trying to keep it in a wreath circular sort of pattern here. So it's going to be exactly behind the butterflies. And I'm adding a lot of water to this. I'm dabbing up a lot of it. I let this dry, and see, now it's still too light. I feel like the blue butterflies don't stand out at all. So I'm going to keep working on the background, and I want to keep working on it until it's darker, because I want not only the blue butterflies to show up, but I want the black and white photos to pop as well, because right now everything's kind of dark in the same shade. So we're going to keep working on it here. I used another shimmer spray. That is a dark navy blue color called Ahoy Matey. and it's very, very dark, but I promise you it's a beautiful navy blue, and it's working really nicely with all of these other colors that I've got so far. I think this looks really pretty. This would be a good combination if you were trying to make a nightscape background, or something like a galaxy. I think these colors are perfect for that. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to add in some more of the deep blue sea. And again, just more water. I'm using the brush. And I want to make sure that I don't cover up the white circle in the middle. I want that to stay white. I think this is working. I'm getting the colors darker so the blue butterflies stand out a little bit more. But yeah, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. I'm going to let that dry for now, and I'm going to start to do some fussy cutting from this pattern paper. This is paper number 8, and it just screams, fussy cut me, please cut me out. These butterflies are gorgeous. So I'm going to cut out a couple of each color, and these are going to come in later once everything's said and done. So I took a little break, and I came back and I put everything on top of the background, and I feel like it dried a little bit lighter than I was hoping, because I feel like the blue butterflies are still not jumping off the page yet. So I'm going to take everything off, and here we go again. More layers. We're going to come back in with the Ahoy Matey, and it looks like I just made a big old mess, but I'm going to blend it in, water it down a little bit, let it kind of run and blend. And I still want the other blues to kind of show. And as I go, I think it's going to work out, even though it looks like a big, dark blob mess. But I feel like in the end, it really does make the butterflies pop. And now you can see, yes, they jump right off the page. And it's going to look different once it's dry. It looks really wet and messy. So see that little part that just ran out there? I can dab that up because I use the gesso. I can't stress how awesome gesso is. It works wonders for things like this. It just allows you time to blend and smudge and dab things up if you're not sure about it before it just dries. And once it dries, it's pretty much going to be there, but you have plenty of time to work with it, and it's not just going to soak right through the paper. All right, so now I'm going to see if this is going to be the final coat of all the blues. I let this dry overnight. This is the next day, and I feel like that looks a lot better. The blues are definitely a different shade. And I was only going to do blue on the background at first, but then I said, you know what? I feel like I need a couple of other colors. So we're going to come back in with some pinks and some oranges. So I used the Distress Oxide in Picked Raspberry, and that's the bright pink one. And we're just going to sort of add on to the right side here. And like I said, this is the next day. So most of that blue is in place, but a little bit of it does mix with the new colors that I'm adding now. Not enough to make a big muddy color, but in some areas it does make the pink look slightly purple in a couple of areas, and I love how that turned out. And I was okay with that because some of the butterflies that I fussy cut are purple. You know, I'm going to wind up using pretty much a rainbow variety of butterflies, so whatever goes on the background is going to match. So yeah, I know exactly where the photo strip is going to go. So I wanted some pink to kind of peek around the right edges and above it and a little bit below it. And I'm glad that I did this. Like I said, I only was planning on using the dark blue on the background, but I'm glad I changed my mind. This is a Shimmers in Sweetheart, and so I'm going to add a little bit of that in. And I have to give a huge shout out to this sheet of thick cardstock because it did well, so good, did so well with all of this water that I added. And I did give it ample drying time. You know, I did let it sit overnight before I started gluing things down eventually. But yeah, it held up really well. And because I was able to flatten it out, it did not do a lot of warping. And usually when I flatten things out, I will just lay it on my desk and then add a bunch of like heavy paper pads on top of it, and that usually does the trick. So this is, it looks yellow, but it's more of an orangey color. It's a shimmers called Sunset Strip, and I'm going to add a little bit of that above the pink, and some of it's going to blend together, and it's all good. I love when pink and orange are up next to each other and they kind of blend. So I just want a hint of orange, orange-ish, kind of like the orange of that butterfly, and then hints of pink over on this right area. And I know that the bulk of this video is me making this background, but I wanted to keep in as much as I could just to show you how it gets done. You know, it does take time. For me, mixed media is not quick. It is definitely something that takes time and patience. And, you know, for me, half the time, I'm way too much of a perfectionist. And that's what takes me so long, because I have to get it just so, or I'm not going to be happy with it. So, all right. So now we are 100% dry. I love how that looks. And it's going to look different once I add everything back on top of it. But it's dry, it's been flattened, and all I'm going to do now is add some splatters. I'm going to use the same colors that I've already used on the background. I'm going to use the Sweetheart, which is the pink, the Sunset Strip, which is the orange, and then I'm going to use the Deep Blue Sea, which is one of the blues that I used. But yeah, this cut file is really cool. You could cut it on cardstock and then paint it yourself, whatever color you want, or you could cut it on any pattern paper. You could make it smaller, you could make it larger. So many different possibilities with cut files, and that's one of my favorite things about cut files is you can manipulate it in the software and do whatever you want to it, and it can look totally different several times. So I'm going to use one of the larger butterflies on the wreath right there, so it's kind of angling in toward the photos, and I'm going to pop the whole wreath up. So I'm going to go ahead and start to do that, and I'm using some adhesive foam there. It's just some craft foam, easy to cut, easy to peel and stick, and I needed to cut really small skinny pieces to fit on all of the back parts of this butterfly wreath. So I've got most of that done, and then I'm going to add some glue, and we're going to stick this baby down and see what we've got so far. And I'm using Scotch tacky glue in my fine liner bottle there. It dries clear because I tend to make a mess half the time when I'm gluing. I'm going to use the adhesive foam on the back of that big butterfly too, because I really want that one to kind of stand out and pop up. And I love how it's angling in toward the little photo strip there. And see, now I can bend the, usually I want to bend the wings of the butterflies up, but in this case, the way the wings are connected, I have to bend up the bottom part, but that's okay. I think in the end it works out. I'm going to layer some white tissue paper behind my photos there. Usually I'll cut my photos apart, but in this case, I just left them in the strip there, and we're going to work with it as kind of one big long picture. All right, so now I'm going to work on some layers. I did want some bright colors peeking out from behind the edges of the photos there, and I got this paper from the 12 by 12 paper pad, but single sheet, it's paper number 16. And this is just going to give me a little bit of a hint of pink and red kind of coming out from the bottom, and then we're going to go with a little bit of orange above the photos. And this is a beautiful gold foiled polka dot orange that I got from the 6 by 8 paper pad, and I'm going to have that at the top. And this is just going to create this nice little separation of the photos from the background and help them stand out a little bit more. And I feel like this was a good choice because the photos are dark because they're black and white, and then we have the dark background. So having some brighter colors around there is going to help it to stand out a little bit more. And I'm just adding a little bit of adhesive foam behind the photos. Since the butterflies are popped up, I want to make sure that the photos are also popped up, and so they're all the same height. And then I'm going to come back and just play around with all those colorful little butterflies that I cut from the paper and see where I want those to go. I think I've got one of at least one of each color, some of them more than one, but I'm just going to scatter those around and then start to glue those down. And I feel like this really brightens everything up. It complements all the blue. And I didn't cut any small blue butterflies because I feel like there is a ton of blue already going on. So I did not cut those out, but I wanted to make sure all the other colors were kind of represented and just kind of loosely flying around the page. And I just glued down the little middle part of their little bodies so I could bend the wings up, because you know you gotta bend the wings up if you got butterflies going on. I'm going to use that little dark blue tag from the ephemera die cut pack, and I just want the end of the tag part showing, kind of tucked underneath the photos there on the right. And then I'm going to cut these two little pieces out from this tag pattern paper that is paper number 12, because I saw this little piece that says Home Sweet Home, and I thought that would be cute for a small title piece, because at this point in the layout I'm not wanting a great big title, because where is it going to go? You know, I don't want to cover up a lot of that mixed media that's showing below the photos. I don't want to cover up any of the little butterflies down below, so I'm looking for small things. And I really wanted to use a navy blue word from those puffy phrase stickers, and so we're going to use Home Sweet Home today. You know, basically two little titles there. And then I like this beautiful sticker from the cardstock stickers. I put it on, then I take it off, not quite sure. I tried this piece that says memory, but I wasn't crazy about the color of it right there, so I'm just gonna not decide on that yet. I do want to finish off the tag by adding a little bit of cord or twine in the end of it there, and you could do that with thread or embroidery floss, anything, but I'd like to have the tag look finished. I'm going to add some adhesive foam behind the beautiful sticker, and it's going to go right above the photos there. And I like that it's blue, but it's a different shade of blue, since I feel like I've got all these other colors going on. I don't know, I just like how it looked there, so we're going to use it, and I like how that looks. I'm going to start to glue things down. I've got the little title piece that I need to glue down. I've got to glue down the photos, get all that taken care of, and then I got to get the title glued down, the little today part, and yeah, so we're just going to start to glue, make sure everything is straight, and get that done. I am going to wind up adding some glue behind the today stickers, because nothing ever really wants to stick to gesso, and I don't want them to pop off the page later. Now I did want to add a little pop of that lime green color, or that grass Kelly green color, kind of down below here. So I'm going to do that with some tangled thread. So I'm just going to ball it up, loop it up, and kind of stick it underneath the little yellow butterfly, orange butterfly area. And I love how that turned out. I wanted to use a color that wasn't down in that area, and I felt like green was a good choice for that. Since I've got pink in the paper, purple and blue in the title, you know, green was the only color that wasn't down there. So I'm gonna glue that down. You know, I love to use my thread. I just wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use another color in another place. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to go ahead and get today stuck down. And like I said, off camera, I added some glue behind those letters just to make sure that they were going to stay put. I did decide to add some pink. I went with a lighter pink thread, and I'm just going to tuck that underneath here on the left. I went back and forth about what color to use, and I couldn't decide. So I just went with light pink, and it's all okay, I think, in the end. Just a little subtle something sticking out there. And this is a sticker sheet from the 8-page sticker book. I'm going to use a little sticker from that here in just a minute. I thought about doing yellow thread on top of the photos or above the photos, and then just decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. I am going to keep the beautiful sticker there. And I felt like I needed something above beautiful. It's just a big dark spot there. So I'm going to use this little sticker that says sweet, and I went with yellow because I felt like that's a color that's not really right there in that area. And then I wanted to put something overlapping on top of the photos. And so I went back to the cardstock stickers and found this really cute reddish pink gold foiled heart. And so I popped it up, and it's going to go kind of right on top of the photos here. So this is what I've got so far. You can definitely see the dimension. You can see the texture and how I did the two cut file layers. Just kind of rolls up off the page. And this made me sad, but you know, you have to trim off the excess. So I had to kind of hack into the butterflies that were hanging off the page because, you know, they're not going to be in the final photo and they're not going to fit in my album. So yeah. Anyway, I had to clean up the edges, and then I added a couple more of the smaller fussy cut butterflies, an orange one, and then I wanted to add something to the middle of the butterfly, so I pulled out some sequins from my stash. I believe these are from Spiegelmom Scraps. I've had them for a long time. They're just big, kind of almost clear silverish, and glued those to the bodies of the butterflies to give them a little something. And then I'm going to write my journaling down here at the bottom. I drew my lines in pencil like always to make sure they're straight, and then I'm going to use a black fine tip Sharpie. And then the last thing I'm going to do, I debated doing this. I'm glad I did. You know me and my white splatter obsession, especially on a dark background, but I just used some white acrylic paint, got a wet brush to water it down a little bit, and then just splattered a little bit of white. And that is the final layout. I love, love, love how this turned out. I wasn't sure in the beginning. I really wasn't. I thought, should I go and cut this again on a different paper? Was this blue a good decision? Is this blue background going to work? But I just kept going. I made it work. And I think the butterflies pop off the page, but the photos still pop off the page. I like how the circle element of the wreath helped me put this whole layout together. That's one of my favorite things about cut files, is they can totally design the layout for you. And yeah, so I took a bunch of close-ups here of all the details and all the colors. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to link the collection that I use. I'm going to link where you can purchase this cut file that includes 19 more spring-related cut files. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week.